What's up guys, DK Jones here, and today we are doing a bit of an experiment video on the Formula 1 2021 game, and we're going to see if you can win a 100% race with only one stint of soft tires, which I think personally is a bit impossible, but we're going to try it. We're going to do it in the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, and as you can see, all the new teams are here with Alpine and Aston Martin and everything. We're going to do this in Bahrain and with 0% AI, because it would definitely be impossible with the normal AI, which is like 80% I'd usually play. And of course, because of the Parfum rules, I'm going to have to work around that, because you have one mandatory pit stop, but we'll see what I am going to do. Anyway, let's go to the Bahrain Grand Prix.
It's race day and our drivers are all out on the grid performing their final checks before we get underway here at the Bahrain International Circuit. There's no shortage of passing opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit, with the best at turn 1 of course, and then another soon into turn 4. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and we could see 1 or 2 flat spots into the tight left-hander of turn 10. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, Daniel Ricciardo, and Fernando Alonso. Gasly, Tsunoda, Sainz, and Sebastian Vettel. Ocon, Norris, Lance Stroll, and Leclerc. Mick Schumacher, Raikkonen, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Nikita Mazepin. Latifi and George Russell ends our grid lineup.
So yeah, here we are at the grid. We did not do qualifying, so the game just automatically created the grid. So we're here in P4. Lights are about to go out. 4, 5 red lights at the Bahrain Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go. And Verstappen and I have a very good start. We already side by side with Hamilton. Now I'm side by side with Verstappen. Into turn 1 was side by side, not touching, and there we go. I am ahead of Verstappen onto the curb of turn 3, and I'm right behind Bottas now. Hamilton there defending aggressively against the Alpine. As I have a tiny look at the side of Bottas, we're going towards a very awkward overtaking zone around the outside and then into the inside of the next corner, and boom, we are in the lead of the race in next to no time. But now, because we're only on one stint of tires and we're supposed to make one mandatory pit stop because of Parfum, so we're going to make a pit stop on lap 1 and then just go to the end of the race like that. That's how we're going to do the challenge. As you can see, I've set soft tires for the next pit stop. It's lap 1, so it's technically still one stint from lap 1 to the end of the race for soft tires, and then we won't have to pit again, so the rules won't have to catch up with us. So there, the Red Bull pit crew ready to create a sub 2 second pit stop. Not quite, 2.5 anyway. So we're going to come out of the pits now on soft tires till the end of the race, which will basically be the same as starting on soft tires going all the way to the end. So we're going to see, we're going to filter out. We're actually going to come out ahead of some of the back markers. We're actually right behind Kimi lap with pit, and we're already ahead of a few cars. So we're going to dispatch of Kimi in quite easily, really, because it's 0% AI, and we're going to catch up to the rest of the field, overtake them, and then try to lap them so we can have a good enough cushion for when our tires blow out. So we are behind Kimi Raikkonen's teammate here of Antonio Giovinazzi, and we're going to go down his inside quite easy. We are approaching a whole train of cars now. Behind the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, we're going to attempt to go around the outside of him and then switch to the inside of the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, and then approach his teammate side by side with him, out drag him, and then pull back into the racing line. Up ahead in the second Ferrari, around the final corner we go. I think, no, we won't have DRS, it's only the second lap, but we won't need it. Very easy overtake on him. And now we're approaching the McLaren of Lando Norris. DRS now is enabled, so we'll have DRS going into the next straight on Lando Norris and Ocon and Tsunoda ahead of them. So into turn 2 and turn 3, as you can see, DRS enabled. We won't really need it, but we're catching up to them. They're actually pulling ahead in 0% AI, so they're actually not very slow on the straights. It's just in the braking zones where it's very easy to get past them because they brake really early and they lift off in corners that really should be flat out. As you can see there, Ocon really slow through that corner. I was having to brake in that corner, which I said is very flat out, as we approach Tsunoda and the sister team in a very high braking zone, so it should be very easy to get past him. Very close to making contact there. He kind of squeezes me towards the apex. As you can see, I check there if we have front wing damage. We really don't need that because we're not making another pit stop in this race, so we'd have to drive around with a broken front wing as we switch to the inside of Yuki Tsunoda, then around the outside of Gasly. As you can see there, he lifts off or even brakes through that corner, which is in fact flat, as we approach the veteran of Fernando Alonso ahead of most of the midfielders. Now approaching the top four, which is Lewis Hamilton behind Daniel Ricciardo, actually, with I think Verstappen and Bottas ahead of them. As you can see, now we're approaching Lewis Hamilton. He's actually going to move down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, the side by side, the McLaren and the Mercedes, and Hamilton has actually gotten past Ricciardo into turn 1, and we're going to compound the McLaren's issues as we go around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo. And now we have DRS in order to get past Lewis Hamilton. We're going to dive down inside of him. No fun and games here as we approach the top two now. They're just under 1 second ahead, so I'm imagining it would be very easy to catch them up. As you can see, I'm already within a second, right on the back of my teammate Max Verstappen, and I think I'll get him into the downhill hairpin. No, I will back out of that one for now. Onto the DRS straight. I'm going to have DRS. Should be an easy overtake on my teammate, and yeah, I'm ahead of him. And now it's Valtteri Bottas next, which should be a fairly easy overtake. As you can see here, I'm going to switch to the inside of the Mercedes and I'm back into the lead of the Grand Prix. Now it's very important for me to then catch them back up and lap them, so I have a big enough cushion so when I get a puncture they won't have enough time to catch back up. So I've started the lapping process there with Mick Schumacher. I've lapped him first, catching up to his teammate Nikita Mazepin. I've lapped him, just going through the back markers now, and as you can see there, my front left tire is actually pretty cooked already as we are on the 10th lap. So I'm not sure when the puncture is going to come. I hope it's not very soon, as we approach now a Williams. It's Nicholas Latifi. I'm just gonna switch to the inside of him as well. Easy lapping there. They do move to the side of me, so they're not fighting me, as I had to overtake them on track last time. Now I'm lapping them, so they move to the side of the track so I can overtake them. As you saw there, I overtook George Russell with ease because he moved to the side of the track. As we approach another back marker for Romeo, we're seeing him for the second time tonight as we go down his inside. Easy lapping there. Now we're about to approach a whole tribe of midfielders to lap. Leclerc is still at the bottom of that train of midfielders, and we're actually lapping them at the same part of the track where we overtook them earlier in the race. So that's a bit ironic as we attempt to catch a bit of slipstream from Esteban Ocon for no particular reason onto the final corner. Yeah, that's the midfield lapped as we approach the top 9 on the race. And I don't think you've noticed, but I'm actually not even trying to preserve my tires or braking earlier or anything like that, because personally I don't actually know how to do that, and secondly I don't really want to do that, and thirdly I just have too much fun pushing these tires to the limit. I'm pretty sure it's going to come back to bite me at the end as we approach the leaders now side into turn 1. They just can't seem to be separated, but anyway, we're about to lap them, separate these two guys ahead of them now, and as we overtake them, they're still side by side into turn 4. Very controversial corner in real life. As we approach the person in second place behind us, we're about to lap him. So we're catching up to the flying Finn. We're about to lap him kind of in the same place we overtook him on lap 1. Not exactly. Now it's good to open up as big of a gap to those leaders and maybe try to lap them again, because as I said, these tires are going to burst at some point and we're going to need a huge gap in order to win this race, because I'm barely going to be able to drive the car. But as I said, the preserving of the tires, that I am not trying to do. I don't think it makes much of a difference except for maybe the lap that they puncture. Maybe they might puncture a bit later, but it doesn't matter because they're eventually going to puncture. As you can see there, I almost go right into the back of the Ferrari. But yeah, I don't think it makes a difference. These tires are going to puncture at some point anyway, so might as well push like crazy to open a humongous gap to the leaders. As we've flapped the midfielders for the second time actually, so we might actually be able to lap the front runners for the second time, which would be very good for the gap, because then they would have to overtake me 3 times in order to win the race, as we approach another tribe of cars to lap, and that's Ocon, so I'm actually lapping him for the second time. So we might actually have a very good chance of lapping the leaders here. As you can see on the mini-map, they're not that far ahead, as I almost go right into the back of Lando Norris, so we take a really wide line and actually pays off as we go around Yuki Tsunoda, who has been unusually nice to me as we approach his teammate Pierre Gasly. Around the outside of Gasly, maybe, yes, maybe not. Yeah, we've gone around the outside of Gasly there. Alonso actually moves away, and Gasly's actually gotten ahead of Alonso, so it's good to help out the sister team there. Mick Schumacher and Mazepin ahead of us, so we're lapping them for the 3rd time now, and as you can see ahead on the mini-map are the front runners, so we're actually going to lap the front runners for a 2nd time now, which, as I've been saying earlier, is very pivotal for the gap, because we need a huge gap, because once our tires puncture, and especially once our rear tires puncture, this car is going to be next to undrivable and will be going even slower than a road car. As we go around the outside of Lewis Hamilton, we have actually caught up to the front runners here. Verstappen is going to move to the side of the track to let me through. I'm going to go into his slipstream and then get ahead of him on the final corner. Bottas is now ahead, is in 2nd place, and we're going to lap him for the 2nd time now. I think he's pitting. No, he's not pitting, so yeah, I'm going to lap him here. He doesn't know where to go. I'm trying to get into his slipstream for no reason, and he's weaving around the track and down his inside. Very easy lapping there. So now we just have to pull on another huge gap in order to stay ahead of them. And now, as you can see here, it has finally happened. 100% wear.
You've shredded the front left. We've lost the front left tyre.
And Jeff there just lets me know that we've shredded the front left tire. As you can see there, it's wobbling all about as we fail to make the final corner. So yeah, now our first tire has gone poof, and our front right tire should be coming up next. So we're going to actually have to adjust the way we drive the car. We're going to have to brake much earlier in order to make the corners. As you can see, the Alpine behind me is about to catch up, and I am not heeding to my own advice there as I go deep, and the Alpine and the Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri actually gets ahead of me, and Bottas is actually catching back up to me now. But because we've lapped them twice, they'll have to overtake me about 3 times in order to actually overtake me on track. So it's not actually that bad as I go off track there and just get past me and they take 1 lap off. So now I'm only 1 lap ahead of them. So actually now, because of the gap I have pulled, being 2 laps ahead of them, they would have to overtake me 3 times to then be ahead of me on track. They'll have to overtake me to take 1 lap off, which they have already, and then unlap themselves, and then overtake me on track. So the gap was very vital because as you can see here, I am very slow because the cars that I was overtaking like a hot knife through butter are actually getting past me now because of my front left tire wobbling about like crazy. As Vettel is approaching me now, I'm actually going to let him through here. I don't want to take too much time off myself because I actually still have to keep a decent pace because the leaders are actually just a sector behind me. They're not too far away from unlapping themselves. So it's important for me to keep a constant, a decent pace to stay ahead of them. And now, as you can see, the front runners have to me and they're now going to attempt to unlap themselves. As Lewis Hamilton there tries to unlap himself, he finds no space there. As Verstappen actually approaches the back of me now, he's going to have DRS actually as I go deep into that corner, and he's going to have the inside, and he actually unlaps himself, which is quite worrying because it didn't take them long to do that. And as you can see there, my front right is actually at 100% wear and it's not shredded yet. The Alfa Romeos get past me side by side actually, which was crazy. But yeah, my front right is at 100% wear and it still looks in, well, not punctured shape. But yeah, it's quite worrying the fact that the front runners actually took another lap off in the space of 5 or 6 laps. So a win is actually looking quite unlikely because they've taken off 30 seconds now in the space of 2 laps. And no, sorry, taken off a whole minute in the space of 2 laps. So that's extremely worrying. It's making the win look extremely unlikely, and maybe a podium should be the goal from now on as the midfielders attempt to lap me. I'm actually holding up Vettel a bit here. Excuse me, Seb. I'm actually holding the racing line as I go completely off track there, as a whole tribe of cars actually come swarming past. And fast forward only 2 laps later, and the front runners are here for the overtake 3 of 3, and it's only taken 2 laps. And oh, as you can see there, I've absolutely lost the back end and I've spun the car. So we're going to actually try to hold the podium position here. As you can see, I can barely get on throttle now. It took them 2 laps to take off 1 minute and 2 more laps to take off another minute. So I have been keeping a constant pace. But the goal here is mainly just to keep the podium position. As you can see there, Daniel Ricciardo is about 34 seconds behind me. So with 12 laps to go, we're actually going to try and keep that position. But on the same lap, Ricciardo's actually closed in 20, and I've completed the 360. I lost the back end, spun the car and completed the 360, and I can barely get on the throttle here because my rear end is so floaty. And as you can see there, my rear tire is completely punctured, so I cannot get on the throttle because I cannot spin that tire or else I will spin the car completely. So at this point it's absolutely impossible to keep Ricciardo behind because it's impossible to change direction or else I'll spin. As you can see, Lando Norris goes right into the back of me there, and I can barely make the corner trying to blip the throttle there, and I've almost spun the car, just catching the car as I almost spin. And yeah, I think maybe a point paying, but maybe a points paying position isn't possible this time. So yeah, that didn't work out very well. Let's see the replay here. As I went off track, I caught the car there. I was actually completely on my side, and I tried to rejoin the track there, actually spun and then spun onto the track. And in all fairness to Sebastian Vettel, I rejoined the track a bit dangerous, but I wasn't trying. I actually spun there and onto the racing line and right into Sebastian Vettel. Yeah, that's the challenge over. Gonna have to retire from the track. So I guess maybe if you're a professional esports driver that knows how to preserve their tires, maybe you could win 100% race on one stint of soft tires. But for average person like you and me, that seems to be impossible.
Smiling faces on the pit wall after a superb win here at Sakir. And rightly so. What a brilliant effort from the whole team. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So yeah, in the end, my teammate Max Verstappen won the race with a 2-stop there. I actually did technically a 0-stop and it didn't work out for me. So yeah, that's the answer to the question that the world was asking. No, you cannot win 100% race on one stint of soft tires. So guys, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe and drop a comment down below. And from me, DK Jones, I'll see you next time.